So this is a video about the origins of religion, as well as its importance as a guiding force in society. Initially, primitive man set rules for his family to abide by. These rules were along the lines of keep the fire lit and keep the camp clean. These rules were intended to increase the family's chances of survival. The fire would scare animals away, and by keeping the camp clean, they reduced the amount of animals that were attracted to the camp. This seems like an obvious idea to us, but back then, in those simple times, this simple innovation was groundbreaking. It was mankind's first foray into taking preliminary measures against a future danger. In the realm of survival, it was the first time, at least in the history of our world, that the future was predicted and action was taken to change the outcome. This is the major theme of religion, which we will come across time and again in this video. The purpose of religion is to guide the actions of the people in the present so that they have a more favorable outcome in the future. But moving on from such a basal example of religion, we understand that with this increase in survival, those who held these rules or guides were much more successful in that they were able to more effectively procreate. The father would pass down his guidance, which he received from his father, down to his children, so that they would have more prosperous lives. Inevitably, you would have many families occupying the same geographic region with similar beliefs, and when they interacted with each other, they shared a lot in common. Eventually, people with similar ideas and similar culture would come together in collaboration to form the first societies. The environment in which people found themselves shifted from being one where one had to watch out for a bear attacking the camp to one where people had to contend with other people. This had a profound effect on religion as it shifted from governing how people interacted with nature to how people interacted with each other. Naturally, as people progressed with their society, certain religious values were prioritized above others, depending on their needs. If you were a community surrounded by hostile tribes, it was obvious that you would need to hold values of strength and war in order to better conduct yourself, to be more effective in battle. Likewise, a community that doesn't compete with hostile communities is free to hold values with regards to wealth, at this time associated with crops and livestock, so these societies focused on being more effective laborers. As religious ideals were held in such high regard that it informed people's decisions, people began producing art that reflected their beliefs, and so the first primitive cultures were born. Ideas of beauty such as individuals being fat reflecting that they had a lot to eat, versus individuals being physically in shape reflecting their preparedness for war, were born of religious ideals. So we are then able to understand that human culture is derivative of religious ideals, which are most commonly reflected in the cultural values of a people. Why it is important to understand the emergence of religion, as well as its effect on people, is to explain the phenomena that we are currently encountering in the modern era with regards to the culture war. Mostly that the majority of people interpret modern society as being one that is largely devoid of spirituality. However, this is not the case. Rather, we have substituted new beliefs for the old ones, or rather have been encouraged to. But what are these new religions that people are being told to follow? Well, as discussed earlier, religions are often centered around ideals and values. To name a few which are highly praised and promoted in today's societies are as follows: equality, wealth, and progress. The religion of equality demands your subservience to the mass. It demands that you revoke your individuality in order to receive the protection of the herd. The hope for a believer of equality is that everyone suffers equally, and so are all motivated to work to alleviate that suffering. The end goal of equality is to achieve the perfect communal lifestyle, where everything is shared between people and so conflict is eliminated. The religion of wealth is one where your worth and influence is determined by the amount of material objects you own. In this religion, you can be the most heinous person, but so long as you are in possession of material wealth, you are entitled to special treatment. The end goal of the religion of wealth is to accumulate a vast amount of wealth and essentially live in a heaven on earth. The religion of progress is one of the more insidious religions that easily dupes people. Here, worth and influence is derived by the rank of scholar you are. The belief of the religion of progress is that one day mankind will evolve to a higher state of being, and so they wrongfully advocate for trying to manipulate the path of humanity in accordance to what they think is a more advanced form of being. All these various religions of the modern era may appear different, but they are all based in primordial materialism. Essentially, all these religions are concerned with the material world, the world that we inhabit, and manipulating it to achieve their goals. Now, you may say that this seems logical, to derive conclusions of our experiences and apply the knowledge in the hopes of influencing future outcomes, but I'd argue that isn't the case, because you can't predict the future based on what has already happened. The entire scenario has shifted to an entirely new environment. Not to mention any possible relations between actions can only be identified in a vacuum, where all other elements are pulled away and robbed of their influence over events. It is amusing to me that throughout the course of European history, Europeans have hardly relied on scientific thinking to make informed decisions that were beneficial to their societies. To avoid going into too much detail, before the advent of the 20th century, decisions in Europe were made in accordance with cultural values to varying degrees of success. Cultural values which Europeans had acquired through the religious tradition instantiated thousands of years earlier, which had come from the religion of freedom. The religion of freedom being the voluntary association of individuals to their mutual benefit in an effort for the individual to achieve their own individual paradise. But how come the beliefs and values of different religions lead to different outcomes? Surely if their end objective is heaven or paradise, then surely they should all be equally worthwhile. To answer that, we must gauge the true nature of a religion, and in order to gauge it, we must determine whether it tends towards divine order or demonic chaos. Divine order being summarized as that force in the universe that creates order and prosperity, and demonic chaos being summarized as that force in the universe that tears down and destroys. Religions that are demonic and chaotic often share the trend of materialism in that they are religious in exchange for some form of material gain. Whether it be physical wealth, the protection of a community, or an alteration of being, these are all demonic religions. They lack principle and actively dehumanize and debase mankind, thus driving the societies that adopt these religious beliefs into the ground, as they are pulled from order to chaos. These religions are also called totemic religions, drawing parallels from degenerated religions from across the world. If you ever wondered why societies in sub-Saharan Africa, pre-European America, and some parts of Asia were so underdeveloped, it's because the cultural values that they held drove them to live like that. It's not a case of not having access to resources which held them back. Africa, the Americas, and Asia are all rich in materials. It's that they never valued those divine and orderly aspects of the religion that would allow them to make use of what was at hand. Religions that are divine and orderly tend to share the trend of immaterialism, in that they do not pursue material rewards but spiritual ones. The achievement of one's personal paradise has no link to material things, but is often instead linked to one's own contentment regardless of position in the material world. To end this video with a summary, Europeans developed religion with eyes towards the future. Religious conduct was initially focused on increasing one's survival. After the advent of community collaboration, religion shifted from merely keeping individuals alive to maintaining the spirit or culture of the family and/or community. Again, giving guidance on what course of action to take with regards to decision-making. As time progressed, and we have unfortunately arrived at the current time we live in, religion has devolved into an action for a reward-based system, mimicking those people who never managed to attain a measurable level of civilization. This is due to the inherent degenerative effect that totemic religions have. Rather than demanding guidance on actions through their religion, the people expect rewards to be handed to them, based on pure chance. Thus, we can further conclude the outcome for people who choose to embrace this mindset. Until next time.